We all have a story to tell. Some are just beginning, others have been unfolding for years. Welcome to the Shaman Stories Podcast. Each week, I sit down with guests to explore their journeys into spirit, the challenges, awakenings, and the moments that shaped who they are today. So take a breath, settle in, and join me as we uncover the stories that lead us back to our true selves. Welcome to the Shaman Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, and today's guest is Ann Hince. Thank you for coming, Ann, and why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and what you do today?
Okay, thanks, Jeremy. Just a reminder, it was Ann Hince as
Hince.
opposed to Ann
Sorry.
Hince.
I knew I was
It's
going to mess it
okay.
up.
It's easy to do. Hi, everybody. My name's Ann Hince. I'm just like you. I'm just a normal person. I had a lot of trauma growing up, and I knew I had to change. I was determined to change, and that my life was going to go in a different direction. So I found ways to change, and I've developed these incredible inner powers, or some people call them superpowers, that I had no idea were possible before. I'd never heard of them. I'd never heard anybody talk about them. So that's why I'm kind of putting myself out there, because I think people should know that we can do these amazing physical changes, make these amazing physical changes, if we continue to do the inner work that I started like 18 years ago now.
Nice. And so with this podcast, I like to start at the beginning. So if you don't mind, if you're okay with it, talking about what led you down this path. You mentioned the trauma that happened to you. Like how did that unfold? I guess it's the
Okay.
best way to ask.
I had multiple different traumas, and I'll mention them. You can always go into them more if you want. I was actually born with my right foot up against my right shin, and my whole body was kind of twisted. And so the first 6 weeks of life, I had kind of physical therapy. It was more through my mother. Was releasing that foot. Unbeknownst to me, it didn't release the rest of it, and I actually had scoliosis my whole life. But then I was handed over for adoption into a family that had already suffered a trauma, because they had adopted a 2-year-old boy, a boy that was now 2, who ended up being my brother. And then they adopted another little girl. And at the time, the birth mother could change her mind. And this birth mother did change her mind after several months. And they had to hand this baby back to her birth mother. So that must have been just heartbreaking for everyone involved. And then I was the replacement for that child that had been given back. So I don't think my mother ever really connected with me, because there would have been fear that it was going to happen again. But it didn't. And when I was 6 months old, we moved to Barbados. And then from there, we moved to Sierra Leone in West Africa. And while we were in Sierra Leone, we had a house fire. And I was the one who woke up and saw the flames coming in through the bedroom wall, between the wall and the ceiling. So that was a pretty good trauma. And then after that, we moved to Hong Kong. While we were in Hong Kong, I was sent to boarding school in England, because that's where my brother had been sent. And I was sent to a boys' boarding school. I was sent to his boarding school. And at the time, there were no other girl boarders. I was the only girl boarder. And there were some day girls who came for lessons during the day and then were sent home at night. And I was teased mercilessly by all those boys in the range of 9 years old to 13 years old. And so that was kind of hell. And also during that time when we lived in Hong Kong, we were in the car. My brother and I were in the car one day. And if you don't want to hear this, you might want to cover your ears for just a minute. And we were driving through a very busy Chinese market. And my dad used to have really bad, angry events, and he would get angry so fast, and he was fuming because he couldn't drive fast enough through all these people, and he ended up driving over a girl's ankle, and she had been walking along holding her mother's hand. So that was pretty traumatic. And then after that, we moved to Bahrain in the Persian Gulf, but I was at boarding school at that time, and during those teenage years, both of my parents became alcoholics, so life at home was hell. And when I was 19, I woke up one morning and found my mother dead on the bathroom floor. So that was kind of the big trauma on top of multiple other small traumas. And I moved out to California, to the US in California when I was 21, and kind of hoped that it would all be left behind in all those other countries. But of course, we take our past with us. So I had PTSD. I was always trying to keep myself and my family safe. And it was when I was in my early 40s that I had an event happen where I decided I had to change. And it was really a silly event. It was like two other parents at my boys' school had told me I'd done something wrong. But these women were self-confident, self-assured, authority type women in my mind. And I was a scared mother on the inside. And they told me I'd done something wrong. And I could not stop my mind spinning, just over and over for 3 days. It was going through all the different scenarios, what I said, what I could have said, what I could have done differently, just everything. And it was at the end of that I realized, okay, this is just not normal. I did not know anyone else who would have reacted so intensely to something that really wasn't a big deal. But I also realized I felt at that time a little bit like how I would feel when my dad would tell me I'd done something wrong. So that was the little opening for me, the little inkling that maybe my childhood was still affecting me. And that was the start of that journey.
And so how did that progress then? Because you mentioned before we started recording that you have like a 3-step process. So, run us through, I guess, each step of that process. Like, how did you find each step? I guess, did you go training somewhere for these, or did you just kind of sit home and go, I wonder if this would work?
Right. Well, I didn't really know what to do at the time, but I actually went to a doctor's appointment in that time frame. I don't know. I can't remember the time frame anymore, but I went to a doctor's appointment and he was a holistic physician. So he had more tools in his toolbox than most doctors do. He also recognized I was more stressed than I should be because I was a stay-at-home mother with 2 healthy young boys, right? It shouldn't have been so stressful, but he could tell I was stressed. And he asked me on a scale of 0 through 10 what my stress level was, and I said 8 out of 10. And then he asked me why. And that's when I realized, oh, it was finding my mother dead on the bathroom floor when I was 19, which was 2 decades prior to this doctor's appointment. Because the tears from that event were still just under the surface. As soon as I thought about it or said anything about it, there were tears that would show up. So clearly I hadn't worked, I hadn't worked through any of it. But he happened to know the technique that's called EFT, which is short for emotional freedom technique, or it's also called tapping, because we tap on certain places on our body as we talk something through. And he tapped with me about my mother's death for about 15 minutes, which I know is a nice long appointment for a holistic physician. That's good. And I came away from that appointment being able to tell the story in my mind for the first time ever without the tears there. And that's when I realized that we hold those memories and those emotions physically in our body and that we can let them go. So I went home that day. I learned everything I could about EFT because it was given away by Gary Craig, who developed it, online for free. So anyone could go online and learn how to do it. So I did that. I still didn't really believe it. As you know, I have a software engineering background. So I really needed to know it in depth, right, to make sure it worked before I wasted my time on something. So I tried it out on an event that was happening at home. I had a 17-year-old cat, and his kidneys were starting to fail. And we'd been told we had to give him a daily saline shot, so like an injection, a saline solution. And I've always hated injections. And the first time I did it, my hand was shaking so badly. I wasn't going to be able to do it every day. It was just too much stress. So I thought, well, let me tap on it. So I tapped about it. I tapped about every aspect of it, which is something you have to do with EFT. So I tapped about my hand shaking. I tapped about my fear of hurting my cat. And I tapped about all the memories of the injections I had had over the years as a child. And the next day, when I gave him that shot, the needle just slid right in. All that fear that had been living inside of me the day before had totally disappeared. So that's when I realized, first of all, how powerful EFT is, even though it doesn't seem it, it doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
And I realized that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be on the other side of all that fear in everything in my life. So I started being systematic about it. I started using it during the day if I was emotional. So catching yourself being emotional is the first step, right? You have to notice when you're emotional. So I mean, I had two young boys at home, so it was easy to be triggered, and I
I,
was a
I
lot.
got two boys too. I can 100%
Okay,
agree.
right. So I would tap. I would notice what I was feeling, acknowledge what I was feeling, right? Which is the difference with EFT and many other techniques is you're finding the truth. You're finding the negative. It's only the negative that's stored in the body. So that's what you need to find. So if I'm really frustrated, I would tap on being frustrated, and I would, verbalize why I was frustrated and allow the frustration to leave. And over the weeks, I started to become less triggered, so less reactionary. So I knew it was working and I wanted it to go faster. So I started working on my past. I knew it was something you do. I'd heard you could do it before. And I wrote down every emotional memory from my past, every big trauma, every little trauma, every phrase my dad would say. I would just write them all down. And I worked through one each night until I'd gone through them all. So one phrase or one trauma a night, I would spend an hour to an hour and a half on it, talking through the event, tapping through it, then going back to the beginning, tapping through it again, then going back to the beginning, tapping through it again, over and over until all the emotion from that event had disappeared. And it was back to being neutral. And over those weeks, just my inner life began to change. I actually felt like I was living in a different reality because my mind, which had been so busy and so negative, had become quiet. Those thoughts, those self-critical, self-judgmental thoughts that used to be a constant in my mind had gone. They weren't there anymore. So it felt so different. So using EFT was the first step of the three steps. Do you have any questions there?
Yeah, I've heard about EFT. My wife and I tried to go to a class on it, but I don't want to disparage the lady, but I don't think she was teaching us the right way because she was literally having us tap every single inch of our body without any explanation. We weren't focused on any specific issue. We were just literally just standing there, just tapping every single inch of our body. And it didn't feel like we were doing anything.
Yeah, you have to
Well,
focus on something, and then it's
yeah.
releasing the energy stored inside around, that memory or that thought or even just a word. But yes, you use the words, you say the words out loud to focus your mind on it or your senses on it. And then the tapping releases the energy stored in the nervous system.
Mhm.
So yes, I do have a YouTube video on exactly how to do it and the words to
Okay.
use. So that would probably be better.
I'll make sure we put that in the show notes too for other people to learn. Because yeah, I've always been curious about it. When I work with people, I've said this before, but I believe there's three tiers of healing. We have the mind, we have the body, and we have the spiritual, which could be just the energetic level. And it's clearing out trauma or issues or whatever label you want to give it from each one of those layers. And a lot of us just get stuck in the mind layer with talk therapy. And we don't realize, there's that book, The Body Keeps a Score. The body holds on to all that trauma. We need to release it, reset our fight or flight, which is the nervous system. And then we also have stuff stuck in our energetic field as well that needs to be released and cleared. And tapping sounds like it kind of hits a lot of those levels because you're thinking about what happened, verbalizing it, then you're kind of knocking it out of your body. It's resetting your nervous system. And to some degree, it's probably clearing it out of your energetic field too, because it seems like it's kind of hitting all three layers a little bit at the same time.
Absolutely, yes. I've realized over time that it is all connected. All the thoughts, the words, the memories are connected to the physical, to
Mhm.
the energetic. So yes, it is a I found EFT was a great tool for someone like me who had a lot of trauma and wasn't very self-aware. And as I did more and more tapping, I became more aware, became aware at a deeper level. So when I started, I wasn't aware of how I felt. I couldn't name my emotion. And as I did more and more, I became aware of those emotions. And then I kept going. And eventually I became aware of the physical sensations underneath the emotions. So when we're feeling something like frustration, we're feeling it somewhere in our body. We may not be aware of it, and a lot of us aren't, but you can become aware of it by kind of releasing those energetic barriers through this work, through working through your traumas. And so you become aware of the physical sensations. And when I became aware at that level, I was actually in a group at the time. We were studying A Course in Miracles, and the guy in the group said every week, you don't have to meditate. It's all about feeling your feelings. So I was doing my EFT in parallel with this group. So when I started the group and started EFT, I wasn't aware of my feelings. And so what does that mean, to feel your feelings? But as time went by, I became aware of my feelings and my emotions. And then one day I thought, okay, let me try and do what he says. Let me try and feel my feelings. So I would. Now, I think I did it on afraid to make a phone call. That's a really good example. A lot of people are afraid to make a phone call sometimes. So where do you feel that fear? So for me, it was in the solar plexus is where that fear was. So I would try and focus on that feeling. I was actually doing the dishes at the time. So I'd just stop doing the dishes and just feel and try and feel that fear. And I could do it for moments, but as soon as another thought came in, or I took a breath, or I moved in any way, my focus left that feeling. So what I realized I needed to do was absolutely stop and hold myself like a statue as I'm feeling the fear. So that's what I would do. I would feel where the fear was in my solar plexus. I would focus on it. I wouldn't take any more breath in or let any more breath out. I would stop right there, hold myself like a statue, focus on that fear. And I would even talk to it. I would say things like, okay, I can feel you right there in my solar plexus. I can feel you right there. And I would just allow it to be. So I don't want to change it in any way. I don't want to love it or do anything. I just want to acknowledge it and accept it. And once it's had enough focus, enough attention, I could feel it release. Then I would think the thought, again, I'm afraid of making this phone call. And I would notice the fear might have decreased a little bit, but I could still feel some. So I'd do the same thing. I would focus on that fear, hold myself like a statue, talk to it, feel it, until it would release. And I would do it over and over again with the same thought until the emotion had totally gone, at which point it becomes easy to make the phone call because there's no longer any fear. So I started doing that every day instead of tapping. I would lay on the sofa, bring some thought or memory to mind. And at this point, I used more collective traumas because I'd been through all my childhood traumas. So I brought things to mind like 9/11, right? We all had our own personal experience of that day. Bring those memories to mind and just feel those sensations and allow them to release. And it felt really good. I mean, it's a fun thing to do. And it became easier to do over time because my body was not used to releasing. It was scared of releasing tension to begin with because I'd always held myself so tight so I didn't have to feel anything. And I think a lot of us do that. So over time that became easier. So that was kind of the second step.
Okay.
Then at some point I was doing this work. I was feeling into my abdomen at the time and releasing that energy. And I realized I could keep my awareness inside my body after the tension had released, which is the only way to describe it. Well, there's probably other ways, but it was just really weird at the time. It was totally different. I'd never experienced it before. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew it was different. So then I started to play with it. So I moved my awareness around in my lower right abdomen is where I was. I moved it around and I realized I could feel inside where there was tension versus no tension. So I'd find a place with tension and I would focus on it and do exactly the same thing. Just focus on it, acknowledge it, allow it, feel it, and it would release. Then I would do it again and again and again. So each layer of depth of awareness, I'm doing the same thing with the EFT. It's the same thing, right? Focusing on something, allowing it to release, doing it over and over until it was all gone. Then with the feelings, same thing, over and over until it was all gone. Now I'm in the body doing it over and over until it's all gone. And now I know this is the beginning of the opening of the third eye, what people call the third eye. I prefer to call it the inner eye because right, I'm working inside my body. And over time, eventually I got to put my awareness inside my head, which was crazy. There was so much pain and tension that had been subconscious before, but it'd been there my whole life. I just didn't know it was there. Even from having my foot up against my right shin, right? I could feel the tension all the way from my left cheek all the way down to my right foot through the connective tissue.
Mm.
So I had the techniques now. I would focus on somewhere. In here, I would actually feel it and hear it release because I'm right near my ears, right? And it would sound like old fabric ripping, which I realized eventually when I looked it up because it was a little scary at first. It was an adhesion in the connective tissue releasing. So then I kept doing it over and over, and I got to the place I could actually feel my skull bones relax. Now, I hadn't known they weren't relaxed before until they relaxed, and I realized, okay, they must not have been relaxed before. And eventually it got to the place I actually had some x-rays taken because I was having orthodontic work done. So they were just regular x-rays, but I knew things were shifting. So I looked at them. I never really bothered to look at them before. And I could see that my skull bones had shifted, my jaw had shifted, my neck has straightened. It's got more to go, but it's straightening. And I've grown 3/4 of an inch, closer to an inch now in my 50s, because I've been releasing this tension that's now physical, right? It started mental, it started with the memories and the emotions, and now it's physical.
Interesting. And that would be the third step.
Yes. And that's where I am today. I'm still releasing tension deep inside my palate and my jaw, and inside my head.
It's crazy. Now, when you're working with people, do you ever get worried that they might get stuck in those feelings or get stuck in the emotions and not be able to work through it?
Well, one of the things I learned early on that really helped me is that memories and emotions are simply energy that is stuck in the body.
Mm.
We don't have to get attached to them, right? They're just energy that's in there. All the energy needs to do is to be met, and then it will release. And once you really understand that, once you acknowledge and grok that, there's no need to get stuck in it because it's just energy. You're just acknowledging and releasing the energy. And you can step out of that once you really understand that concept.
No, I agree.
I don't really get worried about it.
I've had some people who are like, well, that's easier said than done. I'm like, I get it, but you just got to go through it. You just got to push through it sometimes just to get to the other side. And that's one thing my teacher always said too, is like, when we have the feelings, laugh, cry, be sad, be mad, but we don't want to get stuck in them because then that's where things like depression, anxiety, that's where when we get stuck, that's where we're at. And we need to
Right.
just,
When we're not in the present with them yet.
yeah.
And some people, when we're tapping, right? We're talking through a memory and we're tapping, they will get caught into it. And you can tell because they stop tapping at that point,
Mm.
right? They'll start using their hands and they'll start reliving the experience rather than being aware that the experience happens and tapping as you're talking through it. Yeah.
And so with them, you just got to remind them to just keep tapping real quick. Or
Yes.
are you
Yeah.
able to tap for others or do they have to tap for themselves? I mean, I'm sure that's kind of weird to be in front of someone doing that, but I don't know if that's possible.
I haven't tapped on someone like on Zoom virtually, but I mean, I've tapped on children and elderly people.
Okay.
I've tapped on them, but I also do and recommend highly something that I call air tapping. That's actually in that video that I mentioned, which is there's a virtual person, an imaginary person in front of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which might be a parent, it might be someone who was involved in some kind of trauma with you, or it could be a younger version of yourself. And we will tap on them in the air, just virtually, and talk to them and tell them what we want to tell them, the thoughts that were in our mind at the time, but we never expressed, or that have been in our mind since the event happened and we never expressed, and we will express it and tap on them at that point.
Interesting. And what about like proxy tapping? So where you're tapping for them energetically instead of the person in front of you, you're actually acting as if you are them and tapping for them.
People do that. I've not personally
Okay.
done that. Well, I can't say I haven't done it. I have done it, but it's not something I do a lot of.
I was just curious if that would work because I see it with other modalities where you energetically bring their field in and you work on it, or with the emotion code, I guess is a good example where you're a proxy for someone and you're clearing the emotions out of them with a magnet, but it's going over your head instead of their head.
Yeah, I'm really more interested in teaching people how to do the work themselves.
Mm,
I want them to know how to do it, and I want them to do it on themselves
nice. Oh,
because
which makes sense. I agree.
yeah, I mean it's a great tool, and we should be able to heal ourselves. So yeah,
So how long did it take you to get from, step one to step three? Because it sounds like it was quite a journey on that one, just getting through step one and all the tapping and your list and then moving on to the next part.
right. And I didn't know there was going to
Yeah.
be a step 2 or 3, right? I was just doing the work and just realizing how much things were changing and that I wanted to keep going. So I just kept going. And I honestly I don't know. It was
Okay.
years. I've been doing this 17, 18 years now. I've been doing the inner work, the open inner eye things for at least 5 years. I wrote my book in 2020 and I was doing it before then, so probably maybe 6 or 7 years. So yeah, you can do the math. It was a long time, but the path gets easier. And a lot of people think that, having to relive all your trauma is just overwhelming, but it gets easier. We become lighter as we go. It feels, it's the enlightening process. We feel energetically lighter. It's easier to laugh. It's easier to, just do things during the day. So it becomes easier.
Now, how did your husband and kids and other families think about it when you just started doing the tapping on yourself? Like, what was that like for them?
Pretty weird, pretty weird. I did tap on my children, and now they're in their 20s and are not interested in EFT at all. But they have experienced the changes that I've been through, so they do know on some level that it works. My husband's not interested in it, but he never had any trauma in his childhood, so it's very different.
Yeah.
But I also had stories. I went on an airplane ride one time, and it was a long plane ride. It was from San Francisco to Spain. And as we got ready to take off, there was a child, a baby, who was screaming and screamed all the way up to cruising altitude. And no one on the plane likes a screaming baby. So eventually I got the courage up to go to the other side of the plane. I asked her husband if I could swap seats with him for a little while. I asked her if I could tap on her child. And she said yes. And I just gently tapped on his points for less than 2 minutes. And he fell asleep in his mother's arms. And, people were very quietly applauding because they didn't want to wake him up. But, if you have a tool like that, I wish I had the tool when my sons were babies, but I didn't. It was older. But, a tool like that is just incredible for parents with
Yeah.
children or with
Yeah.
the elderly, or the disabled. It would just be a great tool to have.
Yeah, you could definitely see it for kids for sure. I mean, I've been on some of those planes. My own kids weren't really too much of an issue on planes, but car rides. I remember my youngest, first 6 months of his life, cars were not his friend. It did not matter where we were going, what we were doing. The minute we got in that car seat and started driving, it was just chaos. We kept having to pull over to calm him down. It was not fun. And
Yeah,
then
right.
suddenly 6 months, it just went away and everything was normal. Still
Nice.
don't know
But
what
yes,
it
it would have been
was.
good. And my younger son, when he was around 8, he had nightmares, and I would just go to him and I would tap. When a child or when anyone is going through a trauma, right, the trauma is active inside their body. You don't have to use words because we use the words to bring up the emotions to
Mhm.
focus on it. But if it's already there, you don't have to use words. So I would just tap on his points for a couple of minutes, and it would get to the point he would say, "Okay, mom, I can go back to sleep now." And I would leave him and he would.
Nice. And I mean, I know you got the video and everything, and we don't have to go into a full demonstration, but where are the primary points that you start with if you
Yeah,
were to start?
there's 9 points. It's the same points every
Okay.
time. So, and these are endpoints of meridian systems. So they the points kind of travel through the body. So these are
Mhm.
the end points. So the first one is the karate chop point on the side of the hand. And that's where you do a setup phrase and you tap firmly enough that you're doing something, right? You don't want to hurt yourself,
Yeah.
but it doesn't want to be so gentle that, you can hardly feel it. So kind of a medium strength. You trying to create an interrupt into the regular pattern of the nervous system. So that's the first point. And you kind of do a setup phrase there. So you say something like, even though I'm frustrated at my children, that's my truth in this moment. And it's okay that I'm frustrated at my children, right? You're kind of acknowledging and accepting what you're feeling. The next point is the crown point on the top of the head. And you just tap there and you just say something like, I'm frustrated. Just bringing the thoughts back to the feeling. The next point is the beginning of the eyebrow. I'm frustrated. The next point is the bone on the edge of the eye. I'm frustrated. Next point is the bone under the eye. I'm frustrated. Next point is under the nose on the upper lip. I'm frustrated. Next point is the chin point, kind of in the dimple where it goes
Okay.
inwards. I'm frustrated. Two more points. Collarbone point. I'm frustrated. And then the last point is about 3 inches under the armpit where your bra strap grows across. If you have one, I'm frustrated. That's it. Those are the points. Easy.
Does it matter which way you hit them? Should you start here on the hand and then go to the head, or
I
either?
always do that because it's kind of in a sequence, like from top
Okay.
to bottom that way. But some people do different. Some people add in a few extra points here or there. But I just stick with those basic ones. But the,
And
the
how
key
long?
points, so like doing it again and again, right? So if you're talking through a trauma, you talk through it from the beginning, like this happened and that happened. I felt this and that happened, just from beginning to end. And then you go back and do it again. And then you go back and do it again. Most people don't do that, especially if you're watching YouTube videos about tapping. They will give you the words to use, but they won't keep giving you the words to use over the same
Mhm.
words over and over because it's too boring for a YouTube video. Right? And they won't have you go back to the beginning and do it again and again because it's too boring for a YouTube video. So you need to do that yourself and take the time to do it.
And does it, like, when you're tapping, should it be like 20 times for each point, 30 times, just
Less,
till
I
it
would say
feels right?
5 to 7 type.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But again, it doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes I encourage people, if they're having a really hard time letting go, I would encourage people to stay on one point and just keep tapping until they feel a release, like until they take a deep breath, until they have a sigh, until they yawn, something that shows that the body is releasing the energy, and then move on to the next one.
Okay. That
So
was my next question of, should you just stay on one point until you feel a release? But yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah,
Makes
you
sense.
can. Because some people kind of get so caught up in the this point and this point and this point and this point that they forget that they're actually trying to acknowledge and feel and release. So for those kind of people, it would be good to stay on one point.
Interesting. And, besides yourself, have you noticed like any huge changes when you're showing clients on how to use this? Like, is there anyone that stands out that's like shouldn't be possible, but through this work, they're living their best life, or does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has changes. I mean, my best friend is probably the best example because she was so emotional for so long, ups and downs, and ready to leave and then come back, and just so many things. And now, I mean, she's 75 and so much healthier than she used to be, and just everything is more stable, and she's so much more self-aware. It's the self-aware thing that really changes people. When you start noticing the thoughts that are no longer there, which is a hard thing to notice, right? Because they're no longer there.
Yeah.
You've got to pay attention to realize those thoughts are no longer there. But it's so fun to experience that. And that's a huge change, right? Because you've actually changed your kind of base signal. You're tuning in to different thoughts and different emotions. So those are big changes.
Yeah, no, I see that with, I tend to work with a lot of clients with like PTSD. Not just specifically vets, but since I am a vet, I try to, work with them specifically, and I'll have them journal everything that's going on before we start. Like, what are you feeling? What's coming up for you? What's triggering you? How are you feeling when this happens? And just put it all on paper. Because then 6 weeks later, it's like, all right, do it again. Now compare the two, see where you are. Because a lot of times we don't notice those subtle changes when they happen. It's just all of a sudden we're here, and it's like none of that what happened before feels like it was you.
Right.
But having it on paper showing, no, this was what your life was like. This is what it's like now. Is this perfect? Maybe not, but you're getting to where you want to be. And then now you have a new starting point, a new baseline. 6 weeks later, how is it
Right.
looking again?
Yeah. So talking of vets, Gary Craig, who developed EFT, he did studies on veterans,
Hey, okay,
and he would go and tap with them. And so all that information is out there if anyone wants to go and look that up.
nice. Yeah, it's in like there's so much stuff for vets out there. It's just getting them to it sometimes is the challenge because
Yes.
we're
And
very
something that,
stubborn.
right, and something that looks and feels so
Yeah.
strange to do. Yes.
It looks silly, but no, I mean, I do energy work too. So it's like I'm clearing out imprints and stuff out of people's energetic fields. And a lot of times it's just them sitting there for 20 minutes while I'm just pushing stuff out. It looks silly, but it works. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
just come to the table, try something. But,
Yeah.
something like this, they don't need to go anywhere. They could just do it in the room with nobody looking and just start working on themselves,
Absolutely.
which,
And
which
that's
I
what I
think is
did.
great.
I just did it all myself. Yeah. So let's, if you're open, let's talk a bit
Yeah.
into the spiritual aspect of this. Because when I started, I had no interest in spirituality. Certainly wasn't religious. I was an engineer. Um, but as time went on, once I became able to put my awareness inside my body, then I absolutely knew that I wasn't my body
Mhm.
because I was looking from one place up in here to another inside my body. So I couldn't be my body, right? I have to be inhabiting my body. So that kind of started this, other exploration. So we're not our bodies, everybody. You probably heard that before. I know it to be true. So I also had to work out, it was really hard. It sounds such a silly thing to say, but it was really hard to work out where I was seeing from, which I think is the seat of consciousness. It's also where the people talk about the third eye. And it's not the pineal gland because the pineal gland is too far back and too high. I believe it's the sphenoid body of the sphenoid bone, which is kind of behind the nose, behind the eye sockets in the middle of the head. It's the keystone bone. The sphenoid bone is the keystone bone of the skull. It holds all the other bones together. And
Interesting.
it's like a sarcophagus. The body is a sphenoid bone. It's like a sarcophagus. It's like a cuboid bone that has chambers inside, one, two, or three chambers. And I believe that is where the seat of consciousness is. That's where I'm looking from when I'm looking inside my body. So that opened all these other things. And a few years ago, before I wrote my book, a cross showed up in the flesh right between my eyebrows, and that had me looking at churches. Well, church is the rose window in a church. On some churches, it's a cross. So then I realized, okay, cathedrals are 3D representations of the human skull.
Hmm.
So then I started there's normally a double door, which is the nose. There's normally two others, which are the eyes. There's the rose window. There's the bell towers, which are the ears. So that was really fun. And so, what is the most important aspect of a church or cathedral? It's the altar,
Hmm.
where you can alter reality. And that, I believe, is the sphenoid bone, where the seat of consciousness is.
Interesting.
So all these other parts joined the journey of releasing tension inside the physical body.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one, so I'm gonna definitely research that. That's interesting.
And there isn't a lot out there about that, right? Because you have to experience it to understand it. I mean, I'm trying to put things out there about it, but even ChatGPT doesn't know about what I'm able to do.
Yeah, I mean, eh, that stuff's only as good as the sources that it's using too. And if there's no real
Absolutely.
sources out there, but
Yes.
there's so much, I guess, evidence showing, the Egyptians knew different things than we did. The Mayans knew the same thing. Like all these cultures knew all this information around the same time, and they were so far apart from each other. And now we're sitting here trying to like piecemeal it all back together. It just,
Right. But when you look at the symbology of the cross, right, the cross has been used way before Christianity started. So where does it come from? Well, I had no idea the body, you can't see it on this video, thankfully. I don't really like putting that out there, but as on a couple of videos, I show it. Um, the body creates it. So there have been people over the ages where the cross has been formed in the flesh of their body. And so that I believe that's where the symbology of the cross came from.
interesting.
And it forms as you release all the tension, all the sins of your past experience.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as you. Technology background, military, was never, didn't grow up religious, never spiritual. And then for me, it was shamanism that just kept hitting me like a sack of bricks. And it was like, look, guy, do this. And then when I started doing it, I was like, oh, okay, now I need to validate that I'm not going crazy and this stuff is real. And it was just going back and forth and then seeing the change within myself and then the change in others as I'm working on them and then the practicing and then slowly everything just started to shift. And it's like, okay, there is something more out there than what we're led to believe. We aren't just these, bodies that we're inhabiting this time. There's more out there. There's past lifetimes, multiple dimensions. There's all these things. And even physics is now catching up with it, saying, yeah, there's multiple realities that exist. We're made up of energy. That's all true. Like, science is catching up with spiritualism, I guess you can say. And it's,
Yes. Yeah.
they're validating each other.
I do see a lot of people out there talking kind of along those lines, but saying, saying that, well, this doesn't really exist, right? So, you know, kind of thinking that if we believe that and understand that, we can get there
Hmm.
by just believing that idea that this doesn't really exist, it's all made up. And that may be true that it all doesn't exist, but you can't get there just by believing that. You have to do the inner work, the work to change yourself so that you know it to be the case. And it's not just a belief anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, like that one meme, it's real to me. Like this is where we are now. This is our reality. And once we
Right.
move on to the next reality, it's a different plane. Like I've done QHHT, is that quantum hypnosis where you do your past lives. And one of the lives I saw wasn't even a life, it was just me waiting in the universe to come back. And I just had this great sense of just I was bored. I wanted to come back. There's all these like little beings flying around talking to each other. And I'm just like, when can I get ready to go back? I want to go back. I want to do some more stuff because this was the playground. This was the place of learning and being and doing versus up there. It was just, I knew stuff but it wasn't the same. It's hard to explain, but it's like,
So, how does knowing that, having that experience and knowing that you had that life or that time out there waiting, how does that help you here?
it just makes me want to make sure I'm experience the things I want to experience and doing what I want to do. Obviously without hurting anybody or causing pain, but it's making sure my actions are my own actions and I'm not just stuck in the everyday muck of it all. I'm not just
Yeah.
surviving. I am surviving to a point because we all need to work, we all need to do certain things, but I'm doing it the way I want to do, and living the life that I want to live to the best of my ability, you know.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So
What
it's
I realize this work is doing is it's it's making the soul more comfortable in this body, in
Mhm.
this life, because we do have this body in this life, even though maybe it's all made up on one level. We're still right here, right
Yeah.
now. And I believe that when the soul is so uncomfortable is when we die and it leaves the soul leaves the body because it's too uncomfortable in this body. So doing this work, releasing these traumas, releasing all our past, releases the tension in the connective tissue, which is where I believe our subconscious mind is and our soul is. I'm moving my awareness, I believe, through the connective tissue when I'm looking inside. And I think, the seat of consciousness is also the seat of the soul, but the soul moves. People maybe call it the Holy Spirit. I've been trying to work out the naming that people use. Um, it moves through that connective tissue. And when we hold trauma in our connective tissue, we can't move. I can't get my awareness through places that are stuck. So when we release that, we're freeing up the soul to be comfortable in this body. And I think it's when it's comfortable in this body, it will stay in this body for longer.
Mm.
So there's some longevity stuff there too.
Yeah, and I mean, and stress causes us to age quicker. It causes us to be more open to diseases and things like that. It can cause health issues. I mean, stress is a big health issue for a lot of people, and if you can find a way to relax not just your nervous system, but now what you're doing with the internal muscles themselves, I mean, that's got to be a lot of freedom for the body to be able to move the way it should move and to be able to bend the right way. And you're less prone, I'm sure, to throwing out your back when you sneeze. That's where I'm at in this lifetime now. It's mid 40s, and if I sneeze the wrong way, sometimes the back goes out, and it's like, all right, you know.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, I said I had scoliosis my whole life. So my right neck has always been pretty stiff. Like I haven't been able to bend my head on top of my neck, which I know again is a strange thing to say, but you have to think about these things. You start becoming aware at this deeper level once you become aware at deeper levels. So now I've released so much tension in my atlas and my axis bones at the top of the skull, and inside top of the neck, inside the skull, that I can move my head on top of my neck. Now, most of us, our head is kind of attached to the neck and we
Mm.
can't necessarily move them independently. I could never do that before. So I've released so much tension that I can do that now. So yes, and the flexibility is kind of reflected in the body. So the more your jaw and neck is loose, the more your hips and thighs loosen up as well. So yes, it releases everything. And one really strange thing on my journey is I can't remember why I did it, but one day I looked up stiff-necked people in the Bible. I think maybe someone mentioned it or I heard it or something, but it's a weird phrase. I never would have imagined it was in the
Yeah.
Bible, but it's in the Bible like 17 or 18 times, in that we don't want to be stiff-necked people. It's not a good thing to be a stiff-necked person. So, right, noticing how much my neck has loosened up over the years, it's got to be a good thing.
And has your spine straightened out a little bit more from being more relaxed, or is it still because scoliosis, if I'm correct, like the spine kind of bends
Right, there's a
almost
curve.
like a snake or a curve?
Curve, yes, it's still loosening up. And
Okay.
it's all connected to tension in my
Yeah.
left cheek and my right neck. And as I release things in my right neck, I do feel things shift further down. And as I said, all the way down to my right foot. So I will find myself walking slightly different. I can feel slight a different movement of a muscle or a bone or something down further down once I've released something in my neck.
Interesting. Yeah, I believe I have some friends who are chiropractors, and I want to say it's called the fascia. It's that skin tissue that just
Right, that's
connects
another word for
everything.
the
Yeah.
connective tissue. They're pretty
Yeah.
much one and the same.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, they say the same thing, like loosening something up here will loosen up something down there. And
yeah. I've
sometimes,
always wondered where it stems, right? Where did it start from, the scoliosis? Was it my foot, or was it my left cheek? where the pain was so incredibly intense. Or was it my right neck? Or was it my mother took some seasickness pills when she was pregnant with me and she was so worried that it had damaged me somehow? Was it my liver? Because I sometimes feel that too. But I just don't know. I mean, I release places throughout my body and have not come to one place where I think it stemmed from. So I don't know.
I mean, it could be a combination too, right? Because the foot pushing up causes more stress and trauma, and then maybe that's pulling on the cheek a little bit, and then you have the emotional stress coming in through the cord from your mom, who's not sure if she's doing it right, and then who knows from there, I mean, what her
Yeah,
life was like,
right.
and
Yeah.
like we
I
all
still
we
feel like there should be one place that it stems from. I haven't found that yet.
that's one thing people don't realize too is like the when you're in the womb, you're getting you can get trauma and all those imprints from your own mom and dad or for whatever's going on in their life, and it's just carrying down as well too, and that
Yeah.
can
And
cause
my
more.
mother hitchhiked. She actually got pregnant in New Zealand,
Oh, jeez.
went on a boat to Canada, the west coast of Canada, found out she was pregnant along the way, hitchhiked across Canada in the midwinter in my first trimester, and then continued on to England and had me there. So, yes, I'm sure there was a lot going on during my first few months.
It's crazy.
Yes.
And so when you're working with people, are you teaching or is it mainly just putting the knowledge out there with like the YouTube video, or how do people work with you?
I have a lot of YouTube videos out there. I want people to learn
Okay.
how to do it themselves and to have an understanding themselves. But for those who want one-on-one, I will do it. I will do it with them, and it's often a combination of teaching and tapping, kind of coaching, spiritual coaching, EFT coaching. Because some people can't find the words to use, they
Hmm.
don't quite know how to go about it. So I'll teach them how to start, and hopefully they will continue on their own.
And that's a good point too, then. So sometimes when I'm working with clients, there's a general feeling about what the issue is, but they can't truly pinpoint it or get it completely to where it needs to be tr as effective as it would if it's just on a larger scale. Can they start that way? Can they start broadly, work on tapping what they know, and then if they get new insights to go a little bit deeper, or is it,
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah,
You start with where you are, with
okay.
what you know, what you feel. Maybe you're working on a memory that someone's told you about, right?
Mm,
That's all you have to go on. And so that's what you tap with. And as the subconscious mind opens up, right, as you tap, the subconscious mind is opening up. You get more details,
okay.
or you get a related memory and you can tap on that. And other things will open up. And it's just a layer by layer process going deeper and deeper and deeper into the body. But yes, you always start with where you are. That's one of the hard things to learn along the way. Some people will say, well, I can't do that because I don't want to look at that memory or whatever. But that is where you start. You start tapping on, I don't want to look at that memory.
Mm.
That resistance to looking at the memory is the first layer. Acknowledge and release the resistance, and then it's easy to look at the memory, the layer. So, but that's a tricky thing, right? That's kind
Yeah.
of the ego playing tricks with us and trying to prevent us doing this work.
Yeah, I get that a lot too with some clients, or it's like we meet first. Oh, we're going to work on this. I want to work on, something with my mother. My childhood was this, this, and this. Like, cool, let's schedule an appointment. Then they show up and it's like, I want to work on my money issues. It's like, well, hold on. You said you wanted to work on your mother issues. Like, let's go back because most likely the stuff that stemmed from your childhood is causing these money issues that you're having now. So let's take a step back, and it's like I know it's not something you want to look at, but you brought it to me the first time for a reason. Let's not back out of it now, type of thing.
Yes, yes. And I do think money and mother issues are connected because look at
Right.
the words, right? Mummy, money, right? Very similar sounding words. So I think inside of us, they're connected. And so, yeah, good to work on both.
And there's trauma from, money too, because how were your parents raised? Were they worried about money all the time? Did one spend money like there was no tomorrow, even though they didn't have it? Were they working five jobs in order to put food on the table while you were home alone? Like what is it about the money? But it always relates to a parent to some degree. I mean, there's just how we were raised. I remember I was raised, my parents didn't have a lot of money. So it's like I had to work when I was 12. I was mowing yards, doing a paper out, whatever I could to bring cash in just so I could buy the nicer, non-nerdy clothes or cool shoes that all the other kids had. I was fixated on that as a child of everyone's got the Nike pumps. I gotta, or the Reebok pumps. I gotta have those too. My parents were like, we can't afford that. Your clothes are on layaway at Walmart, like this, or Kmart at the time. Like, this is just what it is. This is what we can afford. If you want something, go work for it. But then that took me to well, now I got to work hard for everything, which was good, but I didn't have as much of a childhood as I probably should have because I was constantly trying to make money. I was so worried about having money that I didn't focus on enjoyment of those around me,
Yes,
you know?
right. So you see, that was kind of a good story that
Yeah.
you could tap on with EFT,
Mhm.
right? But not just once, right? You tap the whole story and then you come back and do it again, right?
But I've worked on that with my own modality as well, but it would be interesting to try for sure with tapping. I do want to watch the YouTube and I do want to learn it. It's always been an interesting thing that I've been curious about, but I've yet to find. I mean, I probably could have done a little bit more digging, I guess, because I didn't look too hard on YouTube, but I tried to look around for it occasionally when I thought about it. Like I said, we took that class and it made me never want to try again, to be honest.
Yeah, and I found that a lot. People will often think that they've tried it and it doesn't do anything, but again, that's often using other people's words.
Yeah.
And we have our own words that resonate inside of us, and those are the ones we need to find. So someone else telling our story is not going to be the same as ourselves telling us a story.
Yeah, we didn't even tell a story. It was literally just tapping, like tapping here for 50 times, coming here for 50 times. Like we were literally just tapping every single inch of our body over hundreds of times as if that was going to release something without even focusing on what we wanted to release or anything. It was just a really bad class. Yeah, I can't explain it any other way. And I don't, I'm not trying to, the teacher was nice. She really wanted people to learn it. She was really into it. But the way you explained it in 5 minutes, I spent an hour and didn't get any of those kind of insights. So for me, it makes more sense the way you were teaching it versus, yeah, just tap, just let it out by tapping.
Well, you probably weren't ready for it. You had to wait.
Maybe, I mean, that could be it too, but it was definitely an interesting night. But no, that was fun. Is there any like advice you would give to anybody that maybe is just starting out? It doesn't necessarily have to be with tapping, but maybe their own spiritual journey, maybe there's something they want to work through, just in general, like any kind of like advice you would give somebody.
Well, I like to tell people how much more depth there is to life than we know at the beginning. Maybe we're depressed and we're not sure it's worth continuing. I know I used to get there. Um, but after you do this work, there is so much more depth to life, right? Everything changes. Your mind can change, your thoughts can change, the way your voice sounds can change. I can sing notes now that I could not sing before because I had so much tension inside of me.
Mm.
And so I like that. That's really nice, right? And because I'm aware at such a deep level inside of me, I can see that in other people too, which makes it more fun, right? I can feel music inside of me, inside of my body, not just hear it with my ears, which makes listening to music so much more enjoyable. I'm also pretty sure that means, right, listening to conversations, right? We can feel things in our body and not just hear them with their ears. So we're getting a lot more out of it, and we're able to determine how that feels, right? We can pick up on whether someone's telling the truth or not so much more easily. So all that is available to any of us if we go on this journey and start developing and deepening our self-awareness.
Like that. And do you find that there's still times where you need to go back to step one? Or do you?
Yes, right. When there's emotions that are so kind of overwhelming that I can't feel them, right? It's too much, then I will tap.
Okay.
And for me, it's mostly my kids. Right? Still in their 20s, yes. One of them has a plane. One of them's a pilot with a very small plane, and another one has done has a motorbike and has done mountain biking. Right. So sometimes that's just too much. So I will tap. Sometimes the news, I will tap through the news. I try and feel that more, but sometimes I do need to tap through that. So yes, it's nice having all the different tools.
Nice. And then with, I guess with your YouTube video, well, you said you had multiple videos, so I'm assuming you walk everybody through the 3 steps, or do you just focus mainly?
Yes, I have an inner peace masterclass on there that goes through all the steps. And the first step is noticing how you're feeling during the day. That's what I did. Like, ask myself many times each day, how am I feeling right now? And then I would answer myself, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling frustrated, whatever, because to answer the question, you have to go inside and you have to feel. And even that going inside and feeling allows some of the energy to release. So that's the first step. Become an expert at knowing how you feel at any moment of the day.
Cool. Perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely link those up. All right. I appreciate your time. This was fun. Do you have anything else you want to share or let people know about, where they can find you, or just
Yeah,
parting
I'm
wisdom?
very active on Facebook.
Yep.
So you can contact me there. I have a public page there, and I post multiple times a week. And YouTube, I'm trying to post a video once a week. So there's a lot of information on my YouTube channel. So I encourage you to go there, and you can contact me in either of those ways. I've also got my website, annhince.com, my name, ANNHINCE.com. There's a free PDF of a 5-step blueprint to profound inner peace, which also talks through the steps. It's written. So you can do that, and that will get you on my mailing list as well if you want, and I will send you information about the videos as I post them.
Nice. Perfect. I really appreciate your time today. This was fun and educational for me, definitely.
Thank you. It was fun for me.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if something our guests shared resonated with you, connect out to them. That's what these stories are here for. And if you're looking for deeper healing or support, you can always find me at pnwshamanichealing.com. See you in the next episode.